Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Christy and today I am in Oxford because it is day one of the Accepted Society Symposium. I've actually been here for 4 days, but I haven't been able to do any content I haven't been able to do any content since I've been here, just because it's a little bit overwhelming at the moment. If you have seen my community post, you will already know that I had to make the decision to put my cat down last Sunday, so tomorrow will be a week, and that's been really difficult. And I don't really know what to say in regards to that or how to express really anything I'm going through, but I'm here, and so I figured I would basically I guess share how I'm showing up in a very difficult time for myself, and hopefully this might help some other folk who might experience or be experiencing similar things to find, it's not even ways or strength or courage or anything like that to somehow move through the world, but it's just showing up really. It's not any surprise that I obviously Accepted Society means a lot to me, and so I want to be here for my community, and I will do my best to do that today. I am hoping that once I get outside and am there, typically when I'm around people and I'm in a different setting, I can muster some sort of performativity, because obviously I don't want to dampen the mood of everybody's else's excitement, but it is really hard to hold that space for grief simultaneously, and I don't feel like I can, because anytime that I do, it just feels like it's crawling up out of my chest and into my throat, and I feel like I'm having to hold my breath so that a scream doesn't escape. And I know everybody is so lovely and they are being so incredibly supportive, but again, this is a positive thing for people, and I want to make sure that it stays that way as well. So I'm trying to get it all out of my system now. I'm just about to get ready. I have taken a shower. I took a very cold shower because I thought that would help, but I'm just like shaky and I feel sick to my stomach. So not the way that I wanted to be starting this morning, but I'm going to get dressed and do my makeup, and before I leave I also have these little press-on nails that I got, and so I'm gonna put those on too before I go. I'm probably not gonna make the morning event, so there's an event at 10 a.m. and really today I wanted to be present pretty much from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. but last night was really hard. Sorry. So, and I haven't been sleeping very well at all in the past week, and so I just feel a little bit run down, and I'm quite frustrated about that because I've been really showing up, and I've felt like I've been very positively showing up, and it just feels like I'm wearing out, and now's not the time to wear out. I'm like, this is what I need. I need 2 more days of energy and to be able to just, you know, kind of hold this in myself so that I don't affect anybody else. But yeah, yesterday night was hard, so I didn't sleep like I thought I would. I barely slept, and so I'm just trying to take it a little bit easier this morning. I'm not trying to rush anywhere because honestly my body cannot take any more adrenaline right now. Like, I feel like if I'm rushing anywhere, I don't know, I feel like I'm just gonna collapse or something. So taking it easy. I'm gonna get dressed, I'm gonna put my makeup on, put my nails on, and then I will go out and get some coffee. I think maybe, I'm actually not really sure about coffee. I just don't feel, I don't feel good. So I might actually make a cup of my rose and cardamom tea that I got from Bird and Blend and just bring that with me. I think that's a better idea. But I will stop at Gale's before I go in to Ruley House, which is where the symposium is being held. But I'll get some food from there. I'm not going to be able to make breakfast where I currently stay. The breakfast is included, and I have done that for the past few days, but also I haven't been able to finish the very small breakfast that I have been getting, so I just figured it's better for me to go and just get like a pastry or something somewhere, and then I can nibble a few bites and then, you know, leave it and come back to it if I can. So that's the plan. I'm going to stop rambling now and I'm going to go get ready. So I'm making this video because I think that grief needs to be shown more. We exist in a society in which death is ignored, made to be uncomfortable for those around us, and that means that we don't allow ourselves to grieve. And I think that you could see in the previous clip my own taking on of that idea, in the sense of me feeling like I couldn't show the grief to the people that were around me, which is completely false. And actually what ended up happening is when I did show grief, when I did allow that wave to just hit me, or when I couldn't stop it from hitting me, what happened was I had arms wrapping around me. I had support. I had people who just held me. It wasn't about saying the right thing. It was just about people being there for me and acknowledging the deep sadness and loss that I was experiencing and being okay with seeing me in that state, in not trying to hurry me through it, in not trying to make me feel as though I couldn't show it, etc. That was all internalized to me in regards to me feeling like I couldn't show that, because I was so adamant on not wanting to bring down the mood for anybody else of this event that I was going to. But actually, that's what community is about supporting and about uplifting and about being there for one another. And so I'm really grateful that I did go to Oxford, despite it being really difficult for me to do, because it was only a few days after Fia's passing, but actually being outside of my house was probably one of the better things that I could do. And that week really gave my nervous system a bit of a break. That's essentially how I looked at that entire week, was just trying to allow my literal physical reaction to the grief to have a bit of a pause by having conversations with people, by spending time with folk. It was so important for me to be around people. I was able to have a more gentle easing through the experience this way versus what would be a very extremely intense experience of grief, which it still very much was, but I mean to such an extreme level that I may have ended up in hospital. That's what I think that week gave me, was the reprieve physically that my body needed for me to be able to actually experience the grief that I was going through and not completely and entirely shut down. I will say that this is the second time that I'm filming this, because the first time I did, there were a lot of tears and I was rambling in various capacities. So I'm just refilming this because I'd like to keep this video quite short, but I think it's important to you to understand why I'm making this video to begin with, not even just for my own personal reasons in terms of how it would feel weird to just not acknowledge this loss in my life and move into different type of content, but to actually show that sharing experiences of grief is so important, especially with pet loss, because it's still viewed with such a stigma in society. There's a stigma that exists in general for loss, and family members, etc., of people expecting you to move on within a few weeks and to get back into your routines, etc. But pet loss in particular, some folk can view it as something that doesn't deserve grieving or doesn't warrant this intensity of grief, which is an entirely false way of seeing and viewing grief and our relationships with creatures, including creatures that are not human, but who are still very much family members. Fia was and is, always will be, my absolute everything. She was my whole world. She was my best friend. She's been with me for half of my life. She has been with me through the biggest milestones that I will ever experience in my life. And so her not being here when it was me and her against the world for so long is extremely difficult. I would not be here still to this day if it wasn't for her. And so I will never be able to fully articulate how significant of an impact this tiny little creature made on my life, and will continue to do, because I will hold her memory forever, and I will continue to live with that joy and love and companionship that she brought to me for the rest of my days. So it's quite difficult for me to talk about what happened that led to Fia's passing, and I have gone through this and checked, and I probably will cry while reading it, but this is a journal entry that I wrote a month ago on the 5th of September. It was the first time that I was able to return to journaling, and it speaks about what happens, and so I felt like the best thing for me to do would be to read this.
Fia passed away on the 17th of August, near midnight. I am beyond broken and so very lost without her. She was 16 years and 4 months. She has been in my life for half of my own 33 years. Almost exactly, although I haven't done the maths. I knew deep down something was seriously wrong. 2 weeks prior, she nearly collapsed after being sick. It took her longer than normal, but she got better. We got steps to help her get into the bedroom windowsill and elevated food and water bowls to help with anti-sickness. I gave her many, many cuddles. She fooled me into thinking she was okay, moving her when I needed my arms to type. The worst is that I was on my period with high pain. I have endometriosis on her last 2 fully good days. So I didn't allow her to cuddle me as much because I didn't want her to burn herself on my hot water bottle. On her last good day, though, I remember giving her an intentional 20-minute cuddle before heading to my hair appointment. I regret getting coffee afterwards and delaying my return home by a few hours. I know that I couldn't have known, and I'm sure that I got so many cuddles in, but this will always haunt me. This what if I could have given her more. On Saturday, I woke up to vomit on the stairs, but Fia seemed okay. She even briefly came to curl up in my lap while I was working. Later on, I saw her vomit again, and she looked weak, which worried me, but she was still okay, just tired. And I will say that Fia was a vomity cat her entire life. She vomited multiple times a week for like 16 years. The fact that she was vomiting was not abnormal. It was the response she was having after being sick, which made us, and also the vet that we saw later on, think that it was potentially something called a vagus nerve syndrome, where the nervous system just responds to the actual action of being sick. And so again, there was this initial notion that it wasn't something serious. But then while working, Aiden, my husband, shouted for me. I turned around, annoyed at the interruption, and saw Fia collapsed into her sick. She looked so scared. It felt like a scene from a movie as I tore off my headphones, which fell to the floor as I rushed to her on my knees. We went to the emergency vet that night and they gave her a strong painkiller. We thought she'd be okay. The next day she got worse, and that's when things really took a turn. She barely moved from her carrier and was exhausted and in pain. Her back legs barely functional, and she stumbled to her litter box to wee. She was in the box, but the wee wasn't, and then collapsed back into the carrier. She refused to eat or drink. We rushed back to the emergency vet for blood work and imaging, thinking that it was something blocking her bowel movements. The only thing that they ended up having to do was the imaging. A lump that the vet had felt the day prior turned out to be a large, untreatable mass in her intestines and growing into her abdomen. A very likely case of aggressive cancer. To say I broke down would be an understatement. When we said goodbye, I held her in my arms. I sang her song and told her how much I loved her and how sorry I was that I couldn't save her like she had saved me. When she left, I felt her paw hug me like she always did. My whole world gone with the tiniest exhale. I got her paw print from an ink stamp the vet gave us, tattooed on my arm where she last held me while I held her for the last time. I am broken. I feel like half of my soul has left me, leaving an echoing, hollow absence where she should be. Fia, I miss you so much. I came out to the seaside to write this. I watched the sun come up and thought of you, and when I looked back towards the house, a rainbow for my rainbow girlie. I see you everywhere, yet I cannot hold you in my arms. I will hold you in my heart instead, as I always have. My beautiful baby girl, I love you. And so, as I mentioned, on August 17th, close to midnight, Fia passed away from cancer. The vet who was dealing with her case was an emergency surgeon vet. There was a point, I mean, I was collapsed on the floor and screaming, howling when she had said that it wasn't good news and that a euthanasia was in Fia's best interest. I asked about whether she was absolutely certain that this was tumor and not something blocking, which again, she said she had seen enough cases like this and that she knew with certainty that it was cancer. Surgery wasn't an option because of how large it was and also where it was located and Fia's age. And so she had said, and I appreciate how calm and succinct she was with giving her information to us, especially when I was really pushing back and questioning. And she said that the likely result of doing this really complex surgery on Fia would result in Fia passing away during the procedure. And then when I asked about palliative care in terms of medication, this was an option, but also wasn't really an option because the medication that is given in these situations was medication that Fia was already on for chronic illness and neurological conditions. And so the fact that that had stopped working, it wasn't going to suddenly start working again. And the most we could do was increase dosage, but she was already on quite a high dose and she had had such a high painkiller the night previous and that hadn't done anything, that we knew that that wasn't going to be something that would help her. It wasn't about giving her more time in terms of weeks or months, but maybe days. And that would only have increased and created a lot of suffering for her. And there would have, of course, been the very real possibility of the tumor rupturing at any point, which is just a horrific thing for any creature to have to go through. So ultimately, the decision had to be made. And it's the hardest decision that I've ever had to make in my life and probably will be forever. But I was holding her when she left. She left in my arms, which was her favorite place in the world. And I didn't let her go. I just wanted to highlight a book that I have found very helpful, especially within the past month. And it's called The Pet Loss Companion by Ken Dolan Del Vecchio and Nancy Saxton Lopez. These two authors are therapists who specifically specialize in pet loss and pet bereavement, and they've put together a fantastic and helpful guide in some capacity as to moving through the experience of this grief. They've also formatted it in a way that is extremely accessible and intentional, so they note how the chapters are very short because focus in grief is practically non-existent. And they've also created these bullet point or key points at the end of every chapter for you to be able to get those main takeaways, because again, the focus is just really, really difficult to maintain. And so if you get to the end of the chapter and think, what have I actually read? There's this debrief, but also if you want to return to chapters and you want to go to the key points first to remind yourself of what it is you read, this is a great way of doing so. The chapters included in this are Chapter 1, Introduction, The Circle of Love and Grief. Chapter 2, Is My Grief Normal? Chapter 3, People Grieve Differently. Chapter 4, How Will I Get Through This? Chapter 5, Losing Your Pet Can Hurt More Than Losing Your Parent. Chapter 6, Why Would Anyone Say Such a Thing? Chapter 7, All Living Things Die. Chapter 8, Many People Agonize Over the Decision to Euthanize. Chapter 9, Helping Children After the Loss of a Pet. Chapter 10, Deciding What to Do with Your Pet's Body. Chapter 11, Funerals, Places of Remembrance, and Other Memorials. Chapter 12, Should I Get Another Pet? Chapter 13, Consulting with a Therapist. Chapter 14, Welcoming Joy Back into Your Life. Chapter 15, Holding On to the Lessons of Grief, and Chapter 16, Dialogue, a typical group session, which is more in terms of perhaps if you're a vet or wanting to set up a support group in your local area of how you can go about doing so in terms of the discussion formatting. I only have a couple chapters left, so I'm on chapter 14, Welcoming Joy Back into Your Life, which I just haven't really been able to engage with yet. But essentially how I've worked through this is I essentially read 2 chapters at a time, and I have found these to be extremely helpful, and I would highly recommend this for anybody experiencing the unfortunate reality of pet loss. And this is something that I will keep on hand because I do still have pets, and so I know that this is something that I'm going to have to return to at some point, but also in experiencing the grief and what that looks like relating to Fia's passing, I know that this is something that I'm probably going to want to dive back into as well for those certain thematics. But I just highly recommend I just highly recommend this book. It's really thoughtfully put together, and I did a lot of research around which kind of one of these books that I wanted to actually go ahead and purchase, because it is a very vulnerable and fragile, sensitive topic, and I'm really grateful for the fact that this exists because it has been so helpful. So then what does this mean for my PhD? Well, I currently am still working towards submitting chapters for my annual progress review. I typically have a 2-week extension from the standard date because of being within the disability scheme. That's an automatic extension I'm given. However, I have also requested and have been granted mitigating circumstances because of Fia's passing and the grief that I have experienced and the impact that it has had on me. And so I have an additional 2 weeks to submit what is required for my annual progress report. So my new deadline is now October 29th. I will say that I probably lost a good 3 weeks, like an entire 3 weeks really, following Fia's passing. So it's still been extremely difficult because the way that I work is not at the intensity or the capacity that I'm used to. My focus, as I mentioned, focus and grief are not things that work well. And so I've just been basically chipping away at what needs to be done for the past month. Just little progress here and there, but that little bit of progress is beginning to show in a more substantial way now. I've just hit my 10,000 word marker for my chapter 3 draft. I still have quite a lot of work to do around it, but I'm just trying to really just allow myself the distraction now in the work, and I'm really committed to meeting this deadline. I understand that the best that I'm doing now cannot be held to the standard of my best or even my good when not also experiencing this really emotionally devastating event and the physical impact that this has also had on me, especially also then relating to the fact that this has caused more flare-ups in terms of my chronic pain. And so I am just allowing myself to be present in the way that I exist now. And I just take it moment by moment. A technique that I have actually found really helpful is that, and this is something that I started previously, but I have this little desktop calendar, and you'll see that I have it. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but it says at the bottom, "Do it for your future, Dr. Strange." And I started using the star system several months back now. And this has been so helpful within the past 2 months because it's showing me that I am showing up even when I feel like I haven't been able to do anything, because our mind can really play tricks on us in that regard of making us feel like we haven't done enough. And so I have this star system, which blue star means that I did reading for my research, silver star is taking notes, transcribing, anything like that, and then gold stars is actively writing in relation to the draft that I am actively working on. And so as you can see, in September I did show up a lot, and it's been really good, especially when I got to the end of the month, to look back and go, yeah, I have been putting in the hours and I have been showing up. I can do this. This is possible. And so I highly recommend doing something like this if you are struggling, and if you're struggling to acknowledge the progress that you're making, or if you just feel like you can never catch up and you're not doing enough. Honestly, this is a really great way of visualizing the ways that you are showing up. And so yeah, we're into October now. Technically Wednesday has a silver star, but I've run out of silver stars and I've run out of blue stars, so I do need to go do some shopping for that, although I do hope that most of October are just gold stars. But yeah, this has been a really helpful system for me at the moment. So with that all being said, I do hope that I will be picking up the camera to share some of the process as I work towards this annual progress review for the end of my second year of my PhD. I also have a mini Viva, or an upgrade Viva, as part of this that comes after the submission. And so that's going to be something that happens in probably December or even January. I don't know. I need to speak because of obviously the extension, and people need time to read the documents that are submitted, the chapters that are submitted, but they also need to find the time for everybody to meet all together. And so I don't know when that upgrade actually happens, but I'll take you through the process as well as I begin to prepare for that. But for now, we are just slowly moving forward, moment by moment, day by day, and reminding myself that, as I mentioned in that journal piece, I may not be able to hold Fia in my arms anymore, but I can still and will always hold her in my heart. So thank you all so much for anybody who has watched to the end of this video. I really appreciate you, and appreciate you holding space for my experience of grief and as I navigate life after this loss. So yes, thank you all again so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Fia. Happy birthday to you. Right, come on. Woo, 16. Come to your birthday spot. What's this? This is your birthday cake. Yeah.